It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at AmericasVoiceNow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. I'm grateful that you have decided to join with us, and I appreciate that very much. Great to have you here. Great to see so many folks lined up on our website who are capturing the show live. You can do that both audio and video, whichever is your preference. If you want to listen to the audio, you just click on. If you want to watch the video, you can pause or mute the audio and watch the video. Granted, I'll probably crack your screen or your monitor, but you're welcome to do that in either event. We do this program every day, and every day I get out there in the morning and I'm looking for different stories and I'm looking for different information about what is happening in the world and what's happening domestically here. And almost invariably, there are numerous stories that I think are appropriate to bring to your attention and then to try to evaluate a little bit so we better understand, more often than not, what they're not saying in the story versus what they actually are. And you'll find that in many cases it's significant. What they don't say is almost more important than what they actually do. But that seems to be the way that we have to judge our media these days, because none of it seems to be none of it seems to be engaged in the principal idea of educating you as a consumer. I was watching, I think it was Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, it was Bill O'Reilly last night on Fox News. And, he was lambasting the nonstop, wall-to-wall, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week coverage of this plane crash. And he was lamenting the fact that, it seems like a lot of it is just hyperbole. It's all, there's no real new facts coming out, or, if there is, it's almost virtually immediately contradicted by somebody else anyway. And, the whole idea is that these newscasts and news organizations like CNN, their ratings have gone, dramatically higher, and they're really not interested in educating you. They're only interested in entertaining you. And unfortunately, I believe that is the vast majority of the media today. There are very, very few web organizations out there, alternative media even, and traditional media organizations that are really intent on educating you about what's going on in the world. That's why we've tried to be a little bit different, why we've tried to say it's really not a question of, because, you can find the stories that I talk about anywhere, right? The goal is not necessarily to just present the information. The goal is to present the information with a critical eye to looking at it and saying, how is this relevant to me? How accurate is it? And where is the propaganda in it that I know I will find if I just look? Because the truth is that almost all of it is engaged in some level or format of propaganda. The primary premise of the media today is not to educate you. It is to nudge you, to manipulate your thinking. And that's unfortunately true. There's just no simple way around it. And that, by the way, goes for, the conservative champion of Fox News. I got to tell you, folks, they're just not really doing their job. Their job isn't to keep you, entertained. Their job should be to be exposing what's going on around us. None of the news organizations are doing that. None. There is no investigative journalism anymore. Now, what you'll see more often than not is most media organizations feed off of other media organizations. I was watching MSNBC the other day. I do watch all of our media outlets because I want to hear what they're all saying. And I was watching, I think it's Chris Hayes. And, he was quoting the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal in his newscast. And I'm thinking to myself, don't you guys actually do your own news? I mean, if you're a news organization, why are you quoting somebody else's news? Now, I can tell you why I do. I'm one guy. I don't have the resources of, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at my beck and call and, reporters and a staff and resources to go out on site and interview this guy or that guy or the next guy. I don't have the resources for that. Heck, I subsidize and pay for this show out of my pocket. I don't know anybody in the media that does that. Not because, I have a great desire to see myself on camera. I couldn't care less. Trust me, it would be a blessing to not have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But somebody has to speak out. Somebody has to expose what's going on here and how the media is misleading and misrepresenting the truth to us. And, of course, the other side is that by their cover-up for, these administrative endless series of abuses and treasons and faux pas and, they run the gamut from innocent mistakes to complete flat-out treason. And I don't see anybody else talking about it, so I'm just going to do it. You may not necessarily like that, but then again, you don't have to watch, right? It's a free country. Well, relatively. So this morning we're going to talk about 4 different topics. The first one is going to be how the White House is poo-poohing the Russian threat of a nuclear Armageddon. And how defiant, Putin is and how this Obama-Putin thing is almost turning into a personal, he's openly mocking the president. I openly mock the president because there's almost no credibility to the guy. And, this nonsense about, I'll give you such a pinch. You are bad, Vlad. I mean, it's embarrassingly, it's excruciating for me as an American to sit here and watch my president act like this. He came out the other day and he accused the U.S. of the rule of the gun. He's right. Problem is, the gun's not pointed at Russia or Ukraine or Crimea or anybody else. The gun is pointed at us. I mean, this guy is pimp-slapping Putin around like it matters, and Putin is hitting him with, right crosses. Meanwhile, he's ruthlessly abusing us. All of our rights as citizens, our human rights, our civil rights, our rights that are authored and guaranteed under the Constitution. And it's stunning to me. All right, we'll talk about it a little bit more. The second topic is how Obama has stripped or is stripping the U.S. of sovereignty while the planet is basically laughing at us and the hypocrisy of what we do. I am so frustrated by the hypocrisy of a nation that goes out there and talks about, talks a big game about equal rights and equality and human rights and civil rights, and then denies them of their own people. It's just, and the whole world, it's obvious to anyone who looks. You don't have to, have a political science degree to see it. Our third topic will be, why is it that a black conservative is outcast? I mean, why is it that they're Uncle Toms? Why is it that they're the House N? What is with that? How is it that if you're a conservative and you're black, you're not with the people? What kind of insane nonsense is that? How is it that being black is synonymous with supporting the same party that gave you the KKK, voted down the end of slavery, and worked against civil rights? I don't get it. What is that What is that disease they call it when people are kidnapped? And one of you guys out there on a Patriot FB, tell me, what is that thing where they call it when people are kidnapped and they cleave to their kidnapper? I mean, that sounds like what it is. To me, it's insane. I don't understand how any group of people can manipulate the group think to the point where they are denying their own interests. It's insane. Our fourth topic is going to be why we need your help and the AVN and what you can do to assist us. Because we've reached a point where I need to have a candid one-on-one conversation with our listenership. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. All right, so let's get into our first topic. The White House, yesterday Jay Carney came out, and he threw out the Stockholm Syndrome. Thank you guys over at Patriot FB. The Stockholm Syndrome. Couldn't think of that phrase for the life of me. That is the disease that apparently the minorities in the nation have. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. They cleave to their abuser or their kidnapper instead of, striking out and seeking freedom. It's insane. Putin has signed this treaty with Crimea and made it part of Russia. He is accusing the United States of being, neo-Nazis, Russophobes, and anti-Semites, which, that's kind of interesting. He's accusing the United States of using the force of the gun, which he's right about. It's just that it's pointed in a different direction than he perceives. We here domestically are stripped of our constitutionally guaranteed rights of free speech, our religious affiliation and worship, our rights to be able to own and possess and use weapons for self-defense, our privacy and our right to just be left alone. I mean, why is it government has to be so intrusive that we have to get permission from them to do anything and everything, that they interfere in every aspect of our lives? Not just federal, state too, but the federal is really out of control. Our right to a jury trial, the miasma of laws that are cooked up by these tyrannical wannabes in 1,000 different agencies. I mean, really. It's like there's 100 little Hitlers running around and everybody wants to be the boss. To borrow an old phrase, which I'm sure will get me lambasted as a Native American racist, everybody wants to be a chief. Nobody wants to be an Indian. The abuse of us on cruel and unusual punishment. And the destruction of the sovereignty of the states and the states' inherent rights and our inherent rights which flow down from that. That's the gun that's pointing at us. We're not pointing a gun at Russia. Truth is, if they hadn't invaded, the Ukraine and Crimea, we wouldn't really have had much to say at all. I mean, we didn't say anything when they took over Georgia, which was a mistake. But meanwhile, Obama is over there blowing silly boy kisses at Putin, and he's threatening to give him such a pinch. I mean, Putin's laughing at him. They imposed sanctions on 7 upper echelon Russians. You gotta be kidding me. First of all, those people have long ago pulled their money out of the United States. Secondly, he didn't even impose the sanctions on Putin, just his low-level wannabes. That's like putting sanctions on Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein and John McCain. I mean, who cares? As if they've got money in the Bank of Russia. Give me a break. Only a morally bankrupt and pathetic and cowardly traitor like our president would treat his enemy with more deference than he treats his own people in his own nation. All at the point of a gun. You gotcha. You betcha. That's exactly what he's doing. And he's utilizing the enormous police power of government to accomplish that. Meanwhile, he sits over there and throws out these, meaningless threats to Putin for basically stealing a nation. I mean, really, it's embarrassing. It's excruciating. It's painful for me to sit here and watch our nation act like this. Think of it this way. Imagine you're a parent. Mother or father makes no difference. Father, more importantly, because you'll recognize that as the story goes on. And you're sitting here and you are watching your child, your boy, on the playground. Maybe for a mom, it's her daughter. And he's playing with these other kids, and you see a scuffle beginning. And one of the other kids goes over to your son or your daughter and does the wrong thing, pushes them down. And rather than stand up and defend themselves, which is, the natural human instinct, your child backs off. And you can see on his or her face that he's frightened. Now, as a male, if that were my boy, the first thing I'd do is get him some self-defense classes, and I'd tell him the next time that happens, you open up a can of whoop butt and let him have it. Hard, fast, and now. Why? Because despite all the protestations, we're never going to have world peace. There's always a bully, and the best solution to a bully is to give him a bloody nose right away. But as a parent, it would be very difficult to see your child or to see your child do that and go through that, to feel that they're frightened. It would be an excruciating thing for you to sit there and be silent in the face of that, or to see your child ridiculed by a group of others, knowing that how that's breaking his or her heart. And that's how I feel about our nation. I'm sitting here as the objective observer, prohibited and barred from taking any action, watching our nation be tongue-lashed and physically lashed, and I'm helpless to bring a solution about or even interpose. I'm sure I'm not alone. In fact, somebody posted on one of the posts this morning that I put up. I'd have to find it on here, but she said, "How does Obama keep getting away with this stuff? I feel small and helpless as he continues to break down America." And that is the truth. We are, all of us, feeling the same thing. That we're that parent or that little brother, if you want to call it that, who's watching your older brother be, beat up or tormented or bullied, and you're helpless to stop it. It's a very, very terrible place to be. Yesterday, Russian TV, state-sponsored now, and nothing goes off Russian TV, state-sponsored, without approval of Russia, the government. And they came out the other day and said that Russia is the only nation that could. John Carl asked the question of John Carl from ABC News asked this question of Jay Carney. Now, they threatened nuclear Armageddon, right? So here's what he said. John Carl from ABC News was sitting in the White House, briefing room, and he asked White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, and he said, "And let me ask you, something this was on Russian television, state-controlled television, the main state-controlled channel. Dmitry Kiselev, the prominent Russian television anchor, posed in front of a mushroom cloud and warned that Russia is the only country in the world capable of turning the U.S. into radioactive dust. I mention this because it's state-controlled Russian television, which, as we know, doesn't, generally broadcast stuff that is not signed off by the government of Russia. What is your sense when you hear something like that? Carney comes back and says, that people say crazy things on TV all the time. Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. But we understand that, Jay. In fact, if we want an example of that, all we got to do is look at you and your boss. You both say crazy things all the time. Stuff like, with Obamacare, you're going to be able to keep your doctor, period. And you're never going to see a loss in your health care plan. If you've got insurance, don't worry, nothing's going to change. That kind of stuff. The other kind of stuff that says Benghazi didn't really have anything to do with anything other than some video by some guy who couldn't get 50 YouTube views on it until you guys made it into an international incident. The fact that Putin is manifesting these dangerous tendencies and saying things like this, and don't for a minute mistake the fact that there was clearly government involvement in that statement. It tells me that you guys have failed to look at monsters from history and that you're cavalier about our security as a nation. Think Stalin. His predecessor. Think Mao. 60 million of his own people. Stalin, 50 million of his own people. Hitler, Mussolini. Take the list. Pol Pot. There's plenty of them out there. What it tells me is that nobody thought they were capable of that either. Not nuclear war, but still genocide. Jay, Carney, with all due respect, you and your boss are both fools because you're being cavalier with our national security, our well-being as a nation, and our safety. And I resent it. And truth be known, I think America resents it as a whole. And if they don't, it's because they haven't thought long and hard enough about why they should resent it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the United States is stripping us of our sovereignty as a nation and our sovereignty as individuals, our state sovereignty. We're going to talk about it. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please make sure that you visit and support and help out our sponsors, including our friends over at the Battery Station. You can reach them on the web at batterystation.com. You can call them at 417-257-7799. They have a great series of products and services out there. Please make sure that you help and support those guys. If you have a chance to, swing by survivalbypreparedness.com. It's a friend of mine, Dan Sullivan, is a friend of ours on Patriot FB, and you can swing by there and see what he's got. He's got a blog and some information or stuff available on his store. We'll be right back. Like MacArthur, we have returned. Painless. All you got to do is listen to a commercial or two, and radio is free. Gotta love that, right? The idea that we as a nation have some sovereignty and issues about which we should be respectful and is the foundation of our nation. And the fact that, this administration is not slowly dismantling it, but wholesale slaughter of the, they are tearing the armor off of our government. They're tearing the armor off of our nation. That armor that defends us from attacks, both physical and spiritual and human rights and economic. They're tearing that right off of us and discarding us, leaving our nation undefended and vulnerable. One area in which they're doing that is the area of immigration and amnesty. There was an article out there this morning by Daniel Horowitz on Red State. What happens when the opposition party is so committed to implementing amnesty to the extent that they are willing to destroy their own base? The president will take the prerogative to implement amnesty on his own without fear of reprisal. I never thought we'd live to see the day when the rule of law is suspended by administrative fiat to the point that Democrats openly tout their illegal plan. And then he gives an example here of Chuck Schumer, one of the leaders of the Senate's Gang of Eight that pushed through a comprehensive immigration package last year, said it's clear where the issue of immigration reform is heading. Quote, "We can either help pass comprehensive reform, which will greatly reduce the flow of illegal immigrants." Really? "Grow our economy by bringing in needed workers in high-tech and agricultural areas, and provide a hard-earned path to eventual citizenship for the 11 million in the shadows. Or they can sit idly by and watch the president greatly curtail deportations while 11 million continue to live in limbo here in America." With all due respect, Chuck, why is it suicide or death as the two alternatives? Anyway, he goes on to say, "Indeed, Obama has already ordered a review of deportations and has transferred DHS funding from a border fence to increase salaries for bureaucrats. This comes on the heels of the president's pledge that Obamacare sign-ups will not be used to track down illegals for deportation." First of all, as I recall, they weren't even supposed to be allowed to sign up for Obamacare. What's even more appalling than Democrats openly bragging about flaunting the law and violating our sovereignty is the complete callous disregard by Republicans. What if citizens would stop paying taxes or refuse to participate in Social Security? If the executive branch can countermand a law of Congress, why can't the voters? Those who grant Congress its authority do the same. The irony is that we are all compelled to obey laws that we don't like, even those of dubious constitutional authority. Yet the president is able to disobey one of the few core functions of the federal government while granting handouts to those who come and stay here illegally. Senator Sessions has compiled a full list of actions this president has taken to violate laws passed by Congress and erase our borders while endangering our national security. Yet, instead of spending millions on ads educating the public about Obama's malevolent and imperial actions, they are actually spending millions promoting Obama's open border agenda in an appallingly deceptive manner. Groups like FWD, run by McConnell allies, are running ads attacking House Republicans for not supporting amnesty. Parting question: if Obama feels like he can act unilaterally to alter America even before the midterm elections, what will stop him from pushing the envelope after November when he officially becomes a lame duck? Well, kudos to Mr. Horowitz. First and foremost, kudos to him for having the courage to say what most of these other sycophants in the news and the media will not say, and to outline very clearly some of the areas in which we are seeing the complete and utter degradation of the rule of law in our country. The wholesale slaughter of the armor of our sovereignty, both as a state, both as a nation, and as individuals, ultimately, is being stripped from us by a group of individuals that, for all intents and purposes, are not doing the will of the people. Opinion polls out there are clear about this. the American people don't think amnesty is an issue. So why is Congress so desperate to pass that, which everyone says, hey, let's put that somewhere down on the priority list around 802,000? We've got 801,999 things before that we need to do, including giving our own citizens jobs and making sure that we get government out of the way so that industry can move forward. But Congress isn't focusing on that. They're spending all their political capital, all their energy, trying in an election year of all things to strip the rule of law, strip our sovereignty as a free nation with legitimate concerns about our international borders. And for what? I'm going to tell you why. Because they are desperate. They are desperate to do the job they've been paid to do. Mark my words. This is not some altruistic desire by Mitch McConnell and the other Republicans and John Boehner and the other ilk of traitors in the House. Nor is this a desire to be morally and ethically correct and stand up to the illegal issue by the Senate. What this is a group of people who have been paid well and good, who are now being told by their benefactors and their bosses, you will pass this because we want it. We want it because it gives us an opportunity to push down wages across the board. Because if you, an American, have to compete with a brand newly minted new American for the same $8 or $12 or $23 an hour, then we get to lower the bar for everybody. And that benefits our bottom line. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. That's what immigration's about. That's what all the push is about. That's why corporate America's pushing it. That's why Congress is licking their boots. Congress has been paid. And now they've got to do the job. You know, think of it like this. If you're a hitman and for the mob and you take the hit and you fail to do it, you got to go back and answer. And the guy says, hey, I told you, I gave you that $50,000. Now I expect you to complete the job. And if you don't, there's going to be consequence. See, now Congress is standing there all sheepish saying, well, you know, I really didn't think it would come to murder. I don't really care what you thought. Now get out there and do the job. You should have thought of that before you took my $50,000. Right? So Congress is now sitting there, having never committed the murder before, but now openly engaging in the treason of their own country. How pathetic. How shameful. How morally bankrupt. How corrupt. The stench of death hangs about them like an aura. There's not a single one of them that is justified in their existence, much less their ability to sit there and lead. They represent us where? Show me. Give me some rationale for it. Prove it to me. Because I can't see one example where any of them are doing what is in our best interest as a nation. Your best interest as an individual. Your best interest as a parent, as a father, as a mother, as a worker, as a taxpayer. Where is it? It doesn't exist. Everything this Congress does is diametrically opposed to your well-being. See, the truth is, none of the rest of the people in media, with a few examples like Mr. Horowitz here, none of them want to voice the truth. None of them want to utter the T word. And I don't care whether you substitute treason or tyranny in there, it's both. None of them have the courage to stand up and say what's obvious to everyone watching. I don't mean me. I mean watching the events unfold in our nation. This president, is engaged in treason. This Congress is engaged in treason. The judicial system is engaged in treason because they refuse to stop it. See, the truth is, you can call it whatever you want. You can come up with some fancy euphemism or some PC way to say it. You know, the rule of law. They're not adhering to the rule of law. This is lawless conduct on the part of our president, and we're going to have another committee meeting to determine exactly what we should do. We think we might have an opportunity to take them before the court, and, those justices over there. You all make me sick. Not a single one of you in Congress has a right to remain. Not a one. I mean, there are one or two out there. Trey Gowdy, it comes to mind immediately. But you know what? In order for you to have run, in order for you to have been elected, you had to accept campaign promises. You had to accept campaign election monies, and you had to accept it from something other than individuals. The truth of the matter is, unless this nation is determined to stop the treason, unless they are determined to go back to a point where the government's not going to pay any money towards anything that you do, that you are not entitled to take bribes, that you are not entitled to corporations to donate money to you, because corporations are not persons, and that nonsense coming out of the Supreme Court about corporations have personhood, that is a complete and absolute derelict lie. Corporations don't have personhood. If they did, you could put everybody working there behind bars for their transgressions. Couldn't you? The truth is, unless we get all of this out of government, our entire republic is destined for failure. It cannot stand. I posted something up yesterday from Alexander Hamilton on our Facebook page. I'm going to read it to you. As riches increase and accumulate in few hands, as luxury prevails in society, virtue will be in a greater degree considered as only a graceful appendage of wealth, and the tendency of things will be to depart from the Republican standard. This is the real disposition of human nature. It is what neither the honorable member nor myself can correct. It is a common misfortune that awaits our state constitution as well as all others. What did he mean by that? He wasn't talking about the Republican standard in terms of the parties. He was talking about the Republican standard of government. And what he's saying is that as riches increase and begin to get accumulated in limited numbers of individuals, as luxury begins to prevail in society, the virtue that is available will be considered as only a graceful appendage of that wealth. They will betray us for the lavish lifestyle, for the riches, for the ego. This is the real, and that they will depart from the principles of the Republican form of government. Could he have been more accurate, ladies and gentlemen? This is the real disposition of human nature. In other words, you can throw out any euphemisms you want out there, but no matter how you characterize it, this is real human nature. It is action and reaction. And it has always been so, and it will always be so. and that neither he nor anyone else in that body can correct that failing of human nature. Madison was clear about it as well. He pointed out, and he was talking here about property, he said, every new regulation concerning commerce or revenue or in any manner affecting the value of the different species of property presents a new harvest to those who watch the change and can trace its consequence. A harvest reared not by themselves, but by the toils and the cares of the great body of their fellow citizens. This is a state of things in which it may be said with some truth that laws are made for the few, not for the many. And the perfect example there is every one of these things which our government is doing to essentially strip us of the armor of that sovereignty. They passed these new regulations designed to improve world commerce at the effective destruction of our own commerce, to raise revenue for the world at the expense of drawing it from the pockets of Americans. I saw a post this morning on Drudge Report that the government this year has an all-out has broken the record on tax revenues. They're draining us dry. And what are they doing with it? Well, one of two things. Either they're squandering it or they're redistributing it. And as they redistribute, they make sure that they scrape their piece off the top. They're talking now about making sure that China and Russia get a crack at controlling the internet. What kind of idiocy is associated with that? Why would you allow China and Russia and Iran to have authority over the internet? You think that they're going to handle it in an objective and lawful way, not benefiting their own situations? Again, here we go with the stripping of America and the rule of law in a lawless environment. I mean, the internet is the Wild West. And here you're telling me that you're going to take 5 guys out of prison and you're going to put them as the sheriffs of the 5 most important towns we got. The heck are you thinking? Not to mention the fact that there's something to be said for the fact that Obama doesn't have any right to give away the domain supervision of the internet from the United States to any other body. It's not his to give. Who the heck does he think he is? I'm not saying that it shouldn't be that there shouldn't be a body of individuals that have input from all other countries that have an interest in the internet. And I openly agree that the internet should be, but if you think for a moment that places like China and Russia and Iran are going to treat their own people fairly, you got another thing coming. Once more, another unilateral amending of what? Our policy as a nation, or our laws as a nation, or the world. I mean, who the heck does this guy think he is? This is the most destructive rule that we have ever seen from any president at any time in our history. The truth of the matter is, he is dangerous. He is a clear and present and exigent danger to the United States of America. And these well-paid fat marshmallows sit up there on Capitol Hill, taking the bribe money, quietly shutting their mouths because they've been brought into a meeting and we're told, listen, here's what the president wants. And you know that you got to take care of this and you got to do the right thing. It's for the good of the country. And if all of that fails, don't forget we got those pictures. You got to be kidding me. Not to mention you took the money, remember. And the president assures you that as this thing moves forward, you'll have a seat at the table. Don't worry. You and your family will be taken care of. If that's what our government is, and make no mistake about it, that is exactly what it is, then there is no reason for you or me to follow the law. In fact, I was talking to a fellow the other day, and he was saying to me, in our town, we're fighting this Common Core, and our school board doesn't care. They're going to implement it no matter what we say. And I said, you know what? Then go take over the doggone school. Get 300 parents and go lock the doors down and chain them shut, and then chain yourselves to the door and say, get the news media out here, get Fox and CNN and MSNBC, and get Color 10 from Springfield and KY3 News out here, and get them to videotape you as parents handcuffing yourself to the school. And say, you know what, we should take a lesson from the illegals. They're illegal. They're about to be deported when they're picked off, when they're finally cut away from the fence, and they do it without fear. You are sitting there saying, well, I don't want to get arrested. Why? Is your child's survival and his mental stability not worth that? I would defend my child to the death. Really? Then get out there and do it. Don't talk. Do. Go to your school board member and say, hey, you know what? Apply the same pressure. You know, the truth of the matter is, it's going to come down to a fight. And it's going to come down to an ugly one. And the question here is whether or not you as an individual are going to be willing to stand up and take the risks that are necessary to take this country back. And I have to tell you, I'm losing faith in it being anything other than by force. Daily. Because I see the deluge of abuse. I see the deluge of treason. I see the torrent. And I see Americans standing around helplessly wringing their hands when what they should be doing is loading. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about why is being a black conservative a reason to be outcast from your own racial community. I've never seen anything more self-treasonous than that. Not by a group. We'll be right back. Do yourself and me a favor and make sure that when you visit our sponsors, that you communicate with them and let them know that you heard about them on America's Voice Now. I'd like you to make sure that you see our friends over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. If you're in West Plains and you want a great haircut for $10, get over there and see Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. He also does the hot lather shave with the straight razor and the hot towel treatment and the whole 9 yards. You will not be disappointed if you go out there and get yourself a shave and a haircut. Or take your husband or your boyfriend or your significant other. Take your wife if she needs a shave. Uh-oh, I'm going to get email about that one. Anyway, take your mother-in-law. While you're there, swing into Patriot Cigar and Tobacco and get your mother-in-law a cigar. All right. That's silly. Get your mother-in-law a cigar to go with her brand new shave and haircut. You can also, if you're having legal trouble, go see the law offices of Jason Henry. He handles state and federal criminal and civil cases, including personal injury and automobile accidents. You can reach him. He's on the square in West Plains, and he handles multiple counties surrounding Howell County. You can reach him by calling 417-256-4100. You will be very pleased with his legal services. I have used him myself in the past and have had good success. Make sure that you swing by our friends over at Pizza Hut. Today is reduced lunch day. It's Tuesday, so that means lunch is $5. And tonight is family night. Kids under 12 eat free, and that's every Tuesday night. And Thursday is reduced. Tuesdays and Thursdays are reduced lunch days. Finally, last but not least, make sure that you swing at Battery Station, 257-7799, batterystation.com.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at AmericasVoiceNow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, America, we are back. Thanks for joining with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. You know, if you're catching it on video, I do a little commercial break after the video stops, and for local radio, and I know I got myself in trouble with a couple of the suggestions I made. So, sorry that I'm laughing, but I know I'm going to get a full email box. Anyway, I found an article this morning that I thought was very valuable. And it's on the minorityreporter.net. The gal who wrote this, it's an op-ed by Providence Crowder. And, you know, I see people coming in to be interviewed from time to time on various television programs or various radio programs. I hear them. And it seems like if you are a black person in the United States of America, and I will not use the term African American. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to call you an Irish American. I'm never going to call you an Italian American. And I'm not going to call you a black American or a Native American or an African American. I'm not doing it. You may be a black American. That's fine. You may be an Irish American, but I'm telling you, you know. So anyway, Providence Crowder is black, and I see many individuals who are black with a conservative political viewpoint, and they come out and say, you know, I get lambasted by my own racial groups and political organizations and churches and so forth and so on for not being a traitor to the race and all of that nonsense. So anyway, Providence Crowder wrote this great article, and I'm just going to give you, because it's not really that long, but it's worthwhile hearing. Here's what she says. And by the way, she's a beautiful woman. She shows her picture here on the front, and she's clearly very black. I mean, you know, nobody's going to deny that she's a black gal, right? Recently, many black people have questioned my blackness. Apparently, for some, I am not black enough. But what makes the claim so bogus to me is that our biracial president has been accepted as black by the black masses, even though his mother is white, and he was tainted by he was raised by his white grandparents. I apologize. Even though his mother was white, and he was raised by his white grandparent. Some people have said that what makes a person black is, quote, the struggle. What struggle, I ask? What more does Obama know about struggle than me? For a very brief time, he lived in Indonesia. But even in Indonesia, he lived a fairly comfortable life. Here in America, he has lived a privileged life, gone to top-notch schools and colleges. And he hasn't even spent enough time around black people to pick up, as one Democratic politician called it, a so-called, quote, Negro dialect. That was Harry Reid, for the record. I, on the other hand, know a little bit about struggle. My family was poor by America's standards, as were many other black, white, Hispanic, and other families that I know. We didn't have many luxuries. We just had the basics. My family had been on food stamps before there was such a thing as an EBT card. For years, we received our monthly allotment of government cheese, rice, boxed potato flakes, powdered milk, and dry cereal from our government taskmasters, in exchange for a small slice of our privacy and a big chunk of our dignity. I know a little bit about struggle. I lived in crime-ridden and poor Rochester, New York neighborhoods. For those who are familiar with the area, I have lived on both the east side and the west side. What does Obama know about the likes of Trayer Street, 4th Street, Holzer Street, Clifford Avenue, Flint Street, Bronson Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, St. Simon's Terrace, Fight Square, Fight Village, and Orleans Street? Those were my hoods. I know a little about struggle. I've endured both racial and gender-based discrimination. I've been sexually harassed, disrespected, spat upon, and called names. I know something about struggle. So, if I have the same sufferings and struggles of other blacks in America, why is my blackness in question? My skin is black, but apparently black skin isn't black enough. My jet black hair is fashioned in locks, and I guess natural black hair is not enough. My lips are full, my nose is wide, my mouth protrudes, and my dress size, full. But for some reason, that is not enough. My mother, black. My father, black. My children, black. My husband, black. And fine. So, why is my blackness in question? I will give you a clue. During all the years I voted as a Democrat, I was considered blacker than black. I had been considered a sister, down for the struggle. My skin, my hair, my lips, black, black, black. My blackness was undeniable. But after I realized that I preferred a Republican and conservative form of government and began voting as a Republican, denouncing my allegiance to the Democratic Party, the party of the KKK, Jim Crow, and segregation, suddenly my blackness came under attack. Instead of being considered a sister, many black people began believing I hated my own black skin. Instead of being down for the struggle, many black people started to think I wanted to see black people struggle. By these same people, I have been considered worse than a racist. I have been called a sellout to my people, and Uncle Tom. I have received all that criticism for believing this welfare state impedes economic growth and minimizes opportunity, and that it does not lift people out of poverty, but instead condemns them to it. I have received all that hate from people who share my pigmentation, because I believe our rights come from God and not from government. And I exercise that belief with my vote. I have received all that hate because I believe that our federal, state, and local governments should be as fiscally responsible with other people's money as they expect individuals and businesses to be with their own. And I exercise that belief with my vote. I have received all that name-calling because I vote my values. Nevertheless, although names hurt, they don't define me. I am black because God said it is so. And so it is. And I love my blackness. Yet, apparently, for some reason, blackness has more to do with the DNC than it does with DNA. All this despite overwhelming documented proof of democratic racism, past and present, and an outright disrespect and disregard for the dignity of the black man. So I cannot let groupthink, peer pressure, persecution, or bullying inform my personal decisions and my inclinations. My blackness does not depend upon my political preferences. I am black because God said it is so. And so it is. Well, kudos to you. Providence, you've expressed in writing what, quite frankly, I think a lot of black people think, but don't want to voice because they are afraid of persecution. The truth of the matter is, when you look back at what has happened historically in this nation, we cannot, and I don't care whether you're black or white or Hispanic or Asian or anything else, we cannot point to the salvation of poverty no matter how much money we throw at it. We've spent trillions of dollars since the 1960s and the Great Society and the war on poverty. And what have we accomplished? Nothing. Not one single move. We have more people today in poverty than we did in the 60s. And here we are, 55 years later, we've spent trillions of dollars, and all we've done is effectively strip the revenues from our nation that we could have used for other things. And frankly, there are whole new generations that have grown up in poverty, so we've actually made the problem worse. Because now we've made it multi-generational, but not on its own, but with government motivation and push. That's a sin in anyone's estimation. And it's a shame. With all the money that we've spent and all the outreach and education, if it all was working so well, if the Democrats were really supportive of the black cause, of the downtrodden race, then why is it that they refuse to acknowledge that the vast majority of children that are, I saw statistics the other day that in some cities it's as high as 55% of all the abortions are black. In some places it's 72%. That's genocide. And yet, whatever happened to the rare, safe, and legal? What happened to the principles of rare, safe, and legal? 72% of all abortions in one demographic is anything but rare. And because it cannot possibly be rare, it is therefore not safe. It's not safe for an entire generation. The truth is, you should be no more ostracized for your religious belief, your political beliefs, than you should be for a religious belief. Growing up as a kid, I went to some black churches in our area, and I grew up in New Jersey, so I grew up, with all colors and all shapes and sizes, and, I grew up in very, very mixed communities. And I went to black churches that were Baptist churches, and I went to black churches where we stood up on the pews with tambourines, baby. I also went to black churches that were Catholic. I didn't see any of those people ostracizing each other over their religious beliefs. Then, when I got older and the black Muslim movement came forward, I saw a lot of black people migrate to that faith. I don't see anybody in the Christian religion throwing them under the bus, nor do I see anybody in the black Muslim religion throwing the Christians under the bus for their belief. In the black community, I'm talking black to black now. So why is it that you would ostracize someone for their political beliefs based on race? If this is supposed to be tolerance expressed, I'm offended. This isn't tolerance. This is the intolerance of Islam. Right? They demand tolerance until they're in the majority, and then try to go over to their country and demand tolerance from them. See how long that lasts. Go over there and be gay. Yeah. You're either going to find yourself with no genitals, or you're going to find yourself with a neck that's about 8 inches longer than it was the day before. All of this you know what it is? It's self-treason. That's exactly what it is. It is self-treason, because what you're doing is you are denying yourself the ability to do what's in your own best interest because of someone else's opinion. And to be honest with you, the people that are espousing that opinion are generally making a living at it. Providence, in this article, exposes the hypocrisy of the left and the progressive liberals and the radical race baiters. And y'all know who they are in both the white and the black community. Here's the point. By reading her article, you turn around and you look back at the landscape, and their hypocrisy and racism shows on them like an ugly bruise. I really am offended by people who will use false pretenses and fake morality and morals to enhance a political agenda. And I'm not just talking about color now. The reason why? I'm going to tell you why. Because 99% of those people who use that false morality and false arguments and false pretenses can't even articulate why they believe what they claim so fervently to espouse. That's the truth. And that goes beyond hypocrisy, and it enters the realm of self-treason. If you cannot justify for me why you think the way you think, if you can't express to me what is so perfect about the Democratic Party that you are willing to throw your own life under the bus, then I just say that you've been indoctrinated and you've been played. You're not the playa you think you are. The truth is, these people who are playing you are well educated with your money. They have studied and practiced at how to deceive and manipulate and alter your thinking. They have utilized propaganda, and they have taken the one area that they know that you're sensitive to, and they've used it as a weapon against you. God said it is so. Some of us are black, some of us are white, some of us are born with hair, some of us without. I mean, some of us have affinities and intelligence or the ability to grasp certain concepts or certain skills. There is no such thing as equality across the board. There never will be, there never has been, and if you're thinking that there's ever some level of equality to be reached, you're inhaling unicorn flatulence. To sell out, to be an Uncle Tom, is preposterous. Why? Because you believe that you've been played and you see it for what it is. Because you believe that it is your right and your ability to have your right of free speech, your right to defend yourself and your family, your right to your privacy, to be just left alone, to be outside of the clutches or the influence or the pressure of government in your life. The truth is, these people who believe that all white people are against them, and the white people who think that all black people are against them, you're both fooling yourselves. The truth is, we have a whole lot more in common than you think. I see people arguing and protesting about the stop and frisk in New York. Of course that's it's ridiculous. I don't care what color you are, black or white, Asian, yellow, makes no difference. The truth of the matter is, if we all carried guns, it would be a heck of a lot more polite society. Is that a dangerous thing to think of? Of course. You know why? Because it's been bred out of us that we cannot be responsible with one. That doesn't make it so. It just means that you've been fooled into thinking that, and there is a certain segment of our population that at this point have gone so far down the road of insanity that they would be dangerous. But for the last 100 years, if everybody was carrying a gun, trust me, it would have been well ingrained into our society that there are certain things that you do and certain things you don't do. The truth of the matter is, politically speaking, the Democrats, and I'm not giving the Republicans some kind of a rise here, because they're not much better. They actually may be more aligned to your civil rights. But to be frank with you, when I turn around and I look at what they're doing to all of our civil rights with the Patriot Act and the NSA spying and all this other nonsense, I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that they don't seek to enslave you. They seek to enslave us all. As do the Democrats. They just approach it from different angles. But it doesn't make any difference whether the slave master comes to you from the right or if he comes to you from the left. A slave master is a slave master, and he does mean to rule. The truth is, Providence sees that. She gets it. And I'm personally pleased to see that she has been so eloquent and able to express and articulate that which she felt. This was heartfelt from her. I know it. I can see it. I can feel it. And this is something that is hurtful to her. To be rejected by your own friends and your own neighbors, your own members in your church, because of your political belief that, quite frankly, is far more insightful and intuitive than theirs. To be self-honest, how does that justify being ostracized? I get it from people who come here from another country and they don't know what life could be like in a country like the United States. And they say, well, I want here what we had there. Well, if it was so wonderful there, why don't you just go back? Would be my first question. But when those people were born here and they learned the same history I learned, and I'm not saying our founders were faultless, and I'm not saying that they were without sin. I am just saying that those were individuals who were willing to, in most cases, even put their own personal best interest aside for the benefit of the whole. And they did it in a way that we don't see today. We don't have a single politician that's worthy. All they're interested in is how can they subjugate you. Black, white, red, or yellow. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice. Right. We're in our last leg this morning. Today is Tuesday. And so I've got to bring out something that's been on my heart lately, and it's become an issue of criticality. And I generally am very uncomfortable speaking about it. And I am because, to me, it's the wrong topic to have to even raise. But from time to time, it becomes necessary. You know, AVN has been something which has been on the air now for 2 and some change years, approaching our 3rd year. And for the years that we've been on the air, whether it's been on radio only or then it started, we started streaming it and then we started making sure there were podcasts out there and so forth and so on, I've pretty much funded it out of my pocket. And the costs have only grown, they haven't shrunk. And after I get done here in the morning, I generally go and take care of all the cleanup, and then I actually go to another job that I have my own business. Some of you know that I have a web development and an internet business. And so I go to that and I attempt to try to make a living. Because of where I am geographically speaking, a lot of the work comes from outside in the other areas of the country, and we do some very, very fine work, but the amount of money that I can earn on a personal level is somewhat limited. And supporting this program and trying to make sure that I'm paying for my own kid to eat is reaching a point where I can't continue to do so. And so I very, very uncomfortably suggest that I need some help from you folks who are listeners, who follow this program on a routine basis. And if you follow it periodically and you've gained any value from it, then I'm going to ask you to help and contribute and to support it. Because it's gotten to the stage where I can't continue to subsidize it out of my pocket and still be able to take care of my own family. I'm very uncomfortable talking about money with you, because I notice that when you see a lot of these different programs out there, many of them involve you either making buying something from them, or they've all got something for sale. I don't sell anything. I don't sell a book. I don't sell, access to some private segment of the website. I've stayed away from products that I would have to endorse because I don't have objectivity if I've got to endorse products or individuals. That's why I don't endorse candidates, for the same reason. If a candidate gets into office, that's great. But if that candidate drops the ball, then I intend to make sure that I am able to hold him accountable and not have anyone say to me, well, you told us to vote for that guy. Right? I mean, you have to have objectivity. And you can't have objectivity if all you're doing is racing around trying to chase down money. I don't think. I don't think it should be about money. I don't think it should be a function of trading money for the news and the information. Because if that is the case, then you lose objectivity. You can't possibly focus on that which, your primary goal is, if I've got to keep interrupting to, make sure that I tout my book. You'll very, very rarely hear me ask for donations from you. I generally mention that there's a way that you can go to our website and you can make a donation from time to time. And there are certainly many of you who have over the years, and I'm extraordinarily grateful to you. But the bills still mount, and they still come every month. And I am going to have to ask you folks to participate and contribute and help us. We are so far up the creek in terms of there's a software package we need that runs about $360. There are physical, requirements that we have that, there are things that I can no longer afford to buy out of my pocket. And over, the last couple of years, we've had people who have stepped up and made some fairly significant support for us. And I know that there are many of you out there who listen to the program very, very regularly And I'm grateful that you do, and many of you have donated, at one time or another what you can out of your pockets. And I understand that in many cases it's the widow's mite. If you believe in this program and you believe in what we're doing, and you believe that we're making a difference in either your life or maybe in the lives of, or the minds of someone that you've shared our information with or shared one of our programs with, if I've encouraged you or motivated you in some way to take action, or I've helped to provide you with an inside scoop or view that you hadn't had before, or I've even given you thought to think critically in a way that you hadn't thought before, then I'm going to have to ask you to step up, because I just can't continue to do it. Right now we're running a negative deficit every month of somewhere close to $1,000. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, but it's always around $1,000. And I cover that out of my pocket every month, and I have been for years. At some point, I'm going to have to say I can't continuously do that. And I'm willing to do whatever it is I have to do for my country to try to restore it. But at some point in time, I also need those of you who are participating in it to assist us. And so I'm going to ask you to do that. I'm going to give you an address, and I'm going to give you a web address where you can go. We have on our website, which is AmericasVoiceNow.org, you have a link there where you can use a PayPal account, and you can make a one-time donation, or you can be a monthly sponsor. If you can do a monthly sponsorship, that's great. If you can do a one-time donation, that's wonderful. We also have a regular mail address where you can mail a money order or check or what have you. And let me give you both of those methodologies. One is you can go to our website at AmericasVoiceNow.org. That's AmericasVoiceNow.org. The second is, and when you get there, on the right-hand side, there's some places where you can click on a link, and you can either make it a one-time payment or you can do it in a monthly pledge. You don't have to have a PayPal account to use that system, by the way. It's just a means of taking a credit card. And you can use ATM or debit card or a credit card. And you don't have to have a PayPal account specifically. If you have a PayPal account, you can use that. The other way, of course, is you can mail it to us, and I'm going to give you that address. It's America's Voice Now, and that's P.O. Box 1195. It's P.O. Box 1195. And that is in West Plains, 2 words, West Plains. And the zip code there, Missouri, of course. M.O. is the abbreviation for that, like Mo, Larry, and Curly. M.O. And our zip code is 65775. So that's America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195. And that's in West Plains, Missouri, 65775. I really am uncomfortable talking about it, but with you guys, because I never want people to think he's selling something or there's something in this for him, because I do take a fairly let me rephrase that. I don't take a fairly conservative position. I take a fairly radical position on where we are and what we need to do. And I don't want people to think that there is some personal motivation in all of this, because I certainly don't get paid. In fact, like I said, it costs me money to run this. There's no personal benefit to doing this program for me. There's certainly no financial benefit. I think those of you who watch this on a routine basis or listen on a routine basis know that I am not gaining some kind of ego boost out of it. Quite frankly, I would love to be able to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning like the rest of you. I would love to be able to not think about this all day, or have to write articles, or have to, be out here talking about this stuff. I want to go back to sleep too, just like the rest of you. and wake up tomorrow morning and it's all going to be rosy and fine, right? I want to see the rainbow. But, there has been a driving, I had a friend of mine the other day, and he said, we were talking about this, and I said to him, I'm basically working 2 jobs, and I'm not sure how much longer I can continue to do that physically and emotionally and everything else. And he said, I've never seen anybody who burns the BTUs you do. But no, that's a unique way to look at it. And he's right. I do put a lot into this. And I do because I believe strongly in it. And I believe strongly in the fact that as people do become awake and aware, they need a place to turn where they're not going to be propagandized. They need a place to turn where they're going to actually hear the truth. And not some varnished version of the truth, not some PC version of the truth. When we're talking about the future of our country here, we're talking about life and death. We're talking about the life and death of our republic. We're talking about the literal life and death of our children. And I believe that deserves frank and unvarnished truth. Now, some people may say I don't do it in a polished enough manner. Okay. Some people say, but you're too harsh. Okay. Some people say, well, I find that motivating, or I don't find this motivating. Okay. I'm not perfect, and I can't be perfect to all people. But I do know that I have gotten enough contact from many, many, many people over the years, phone and email and other contacts and in-person meetings, where people have said, you are saying what I want to say because I don't know how to say it, or I don't have the platform, or I'm not articulate enough, or I just can't think fast enough to say it. The reason I called this program America's Voice Now is because I think it does speak for a significant percentage of the country. I think there's a lot of people out there who think the way we do. They just either don't know how to voice it, or they're terrified to voice it, which is maybe more likely, right? Somebody has to be willing to step up and say, I'm gonna voice that which others can't. I'm not a news organization in the traditional sense where I'm going out there and doing investigative reporting. I'd love to do that, but there's just not time to do it. There's no money to do it. There's no resources to do it. And, I've got to, after I get off of here, I've got to race back to my office and try to make a living. I sure don't have the time to pick up the phone and call up Senator so-and-so and say, here's what I heard. Give me your input on it. I'm writing an article about it. I can't even keep up with our website. I'm so busy. I do know that there's a lot of you out there who have really, truly benefited from this program in one way or another. Either, I don't know if physically, but I think that in terms of your mindset, you've benefited from this. And so I'm going to ask you to step up to the plate and help us out. Because we want to be here, we want to be on the air, we want to be continuing the program, but I can't do it alone. And frankly, I shouldn't have to do it alone. At the deficit that I'm at, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or anything else, but at the deficit that we're at, it's cost me, you don't even know how much. And I'd be afraid to say so because my wife might be listening. The truth is, there's been a lot of sacrifice that's gone into America's Voice. And I would like for you to help us continue continue the program. If you can't do that, and I understand that, times are very, very difficult for everyone. I may make a couple of suggestions. Hold some sort of a fundraiser. There are ways that you can be creative and think outside the box and be a critical thinker and benefit this program with something that ordinarily you weren't thinking about, another format that you weren't thinking about. Maybe holding a fundraiser, maybe holding a garage sale, and just now that the spring is getting here, and taking a bunch of junk that's in your garage that you've been wondering about what to do with, and donate the proceeds. Whatever it is, we really could. I can't express to you how badly we need your help. Not without sounding like I'm... I can't express to you verbally how badly we need your help. So if you would be so kind, there's 2 different ways you can accomplish that task. I didn't mean to spend a whole segment on this, but I feel that it's important that we do, because the alternative is that this is not a service that would be available to everybody. And I know there's a lot of people that log on every morning and catch the program, and they're dedicated to it, and they're active listeners. And a lot of you take action based on the stuff that we talk about. You contact your senator or your representative. Okay, you can go to AmericasVoiceNow.org. AmericasVoiceNow.org. You can, there's a PayPal link over there on the website. You can hit that. The alternative, of course, is you can mail us to a P.O. Box, and that is America's Voice Now, and that's P.O. Box 1195, and that's in West Plains, 2 words, West Plains, Missouri. And the zip code here is 65775. If you can help, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I understand if you say you can't. We're all doing the best that we can, and it's not necessarily the easiest place for all of us to be right now, right? Okay. We've got a couple of minutes left. There's a few housekeeping things I want to talk about here, including the Howell County Campaign for Liberty group that meets on Thursday. It's on Thursday. They're going to meet, if you're local and you're in the area. The Campaign for Liberty group is kind of like a libertarian group, and they're heavily involved in property rights as well. They will meet on Thursday, the 20th of March at 7 p.m. They meet in a place called Skillets that's in West Plains, and the address there is on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. The phone number, if you need directions, is 417-256-7500. Basically, at 7 o'clock, everybody shows up and they talk about different things that are happening right now in the state and related to state government. And then at 7:30, Terry Hampton will be talking, and she is going to be running for the 8th Congressional District seat against Jason Smith. She's going to be running, I believe, as an independent or a libertarian. I'm not sure which. I think it's independent. And she'll be there to talk about her platform, to describe her intentions and goals for the office, and to answer any questions that anyone may have. So I encourage you to get there if at all possible. Now, next week is the meeting on Thursday night next week for the property rights group in Mountain Grove. And if you can participate in that, that is the Property Rights Coalition organization, and that there's a couple of different things that you should do or know about with that organization. There's a website for it that you can go to called prcnews.org. That's prcnews.org. P like Property Rights Coalition. PRC, Property Rights Coalition. PRCnews, NEWS.org. That particular group is run by Doreen Hannes and Bob Parker, and they work tirelessly for property rights of the folks in the South Central Missouri area. If you do not have a property rights group in your area and you're not geographically based here in Missouri or South Central Missouri, I would encourage you to communicate with either Mike Slack or Bob Parker or one of the individuals who runs one of these property rights coalition groups, and educate yourself about what you can do to start one in your own community. Because I got to tell you, these property rights coalitions and the Libertarian group and things like that, the Constitution Party, these guys have been so effective at getting property rights protected here in the state of Missouri. You would be amazed at how much power they've been able to effectively drive. I'm talking about things like the Blue Ways, where we actually, here's a ragtag group of hillbillies down in the Ozarks who are able to literally put the federal government back on its heels and have them withdraw that Blue Ways project. Wow. Think about that. Talk about a David and Goliath story. Another example is the fight for the Ozark Scenic Riverways property, and to get that property back from the federal government. Who ever heard of the federal government giving property back to the state that they stole it from in the first place? We're on the cusp of working on that, and we think we've got a very, very good shot of actually getting that to happen. All of it is a direct result of these property rights groups who have been out there tirelessly hammering away at our representatives, our state representatives, our federal representatives. These people make a difference, and they're making a difference everywhere in your life, and you don't even know it. So participate in it, because by doing so, you're actually able to enhance their numbers and enhance the effectiveness of these groups, and really make changes in your communities, not only local but your state and then federally. If you have questions about it and you'd like to start a property rights group, I don't have Bob's and Mike Slack's and Doreen's numbers here in front of me, but I do know that they would be more than willing to talk to you about starting a group. And you can start it, just with a couple of members in your church or something like that, and then kind of expand and grow it. Get a few neighbors together and just hold a meeting. You can hold it in a local diner or something like that, or you can hold it at someone's home, or you can hold it in a local place where, generally they try to hold it at a place where you can have a meal and then, invite people in to talk to you. People who are running for office, your local state representatives who are already in office demanding, hey, tell us what's going on over there. If you want our continued support and we wield power, then you got to come in and report to us, right? So, joining a property rights coalition organization is extremely valuable. prcnews.org. prcnews.org. That's a website where you can learn a lot about it. And if you would like to start one, you can send me a quick email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. And I'll get you a number of someone that you can speak to about what it takes to start one. Bob or Doreen or Mike or Kevin would be happy to speak to you about what you need to do to kick off your own property rights group in your area. What I can tell you is that the larger this project gets and the larger these property rights grow, the more power that we collectively wield. So, okay, please make sure that you do what you can to help and support our programming here. Now, by the way, Doreen Hannes runs a website which is excellent. It's called truthfarmer.com. Truth Farmer, and I would strongly encourage you to get there and take a look at her website. If there is any way that you can see your way clear to being a member of the Constitution Party and running for committee here in Missouri, you only have until March 25th to do that. And I had a meeting or a discussion with Doug Enyart in reference to that. If there's any way that you can that you'd like to participate in that, you can go to cpmo.org. That's Constitution Party of Missouri. If you're not from Missouri, CPMO will at least lead you to their national site. Make sure that you are becoming a committee member or a committee man or committee woman in your county for the Constitution Party, because it's how you get an opportunity to make sure that you have a say in who they're going to put up as a candidate. Furthermore, if you're a registered Republican and you don't want to have anything to do with the Constitution Party, but you want to work from within, make sure that you're registering to become a committee woman or a committee man in your county, and get the traitors out of there. If you've got people in your local Republican Party who are not doing right by the community, or they're party hacks, then throw them out. Replace them with people who have integrity and honor and the true best interest of the country at hand. That's what this is about. That's what you need to be doing locally. How do you solve it? One person at a time? You participate. Okay. Thanks for riding with us. Thanks for sticking with me through that segment about what you can do to help AVN. I know it's an uncomfortable spot for me to be in, to have to ask you. And it's perhaps just as uncomfortable for you to have to watch it. So, but if nothing else, I'm blunt, and that's the way it is. God said it should be so, and it is. All right, we're going to wrap for the day. You can find us at AmericasVoiceNow.org. You can find our Facebook page. Please like that. You can do so by going to Facebook.com/AmericasVoiceNow. Our YouTube channel at YouTube.com/AmericasVoiceNow. And our Spreaker channel. If you can hit that like button, once we get to 100, it'll push us out onto iHeartRadio and iTunes, and that would dramatically help us grow our listenership. You can go there by going to Spreaker.com. That's like speaker with an R. Spreaker.com/user/AmericasVoiceNow. Hit the like button, and we need to get to 100, and we're at like 80 or something. We're close. We're close. Hurry up. Get over there. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.